West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
The first reading this morning is Redemption by Harson Shire. Featured in Beyoncé's album Lemonade, this poem by Warsan Shire draws on the inner strength passed between generations. In the face of adversity, the speaker's grandmother knows how to heal, remedy, and begin again. This poem truly embodies the old axiom, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Redemption by Warsan Shire. Take 1 pint of water, add a ½ pound of sugar, the juice of 8 lemons, the zest of half a lemon. Pour the water from one jug, then into the other, several times. Strain through a clean napkin. Grandmother, the alchemist, you spun gold out of this hard life, conjured beauty from the things left behind, found healing where it did not live, discovered the antidote in your own kit, broke the curse with your own 2 hands. You passed these instructions down to your daughter, who then passed it down to her daughter. I had my ups and downs, but I always find the inner strength to pull myself up. I was served lemons, but I made lemonade. My grandma said, nothing real can be threatened. True love brought salvation back into me. With every tear came redemption, and my torturers became my remedy. So, we're gonna heal. We're gonna start again. You've brought the orchestra synchronized swimmers. You're the magician. Pull me back together again the way you cut me in half. Make the woman in doubt disappear. Pull the sorrow from between my legs like silk. Knot after knot after knot. The audience applauds, but we can't hear them. Offered as wisdom for the journey.
May we walk in its light.
The second reading is called Poems on Time by Rabindranath Tagore. This short poem by the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore looks at the relationship between time and change. The more time we have, the greater the change possible. However, time often feels in short supply. And yet, the butterfly lives only a short time, but changes in ways we cannot imagine ourselves. So perhaps wisdom is to live like a butterfly, dancing on the edges of time. Poems on Time by Rabindranath Tagore. The butterfly counts not months, but moments, and has time enough. Time is a wealth of change, but the clock in its parody makes it mere change and no wealth. Let your life lightly dance on the edges of time, like dew on the tip of a leaf. Offered as wisdom for the journey. May we walk in
its light.
So we're entering a new moment here at West Hill United, and we're going to see how we're going to change and become over the coming weeks and months and years. And because this all started back in 2021, last November, and West Hill United started a process of discernment with Listenology, which was led by Joe Manifo, and many of you attended congregational meetings with Joe on Zoom and asking us who we are and what we want to be and what needs to be changed and what needs to stay the same. And there's also many more meetings with Joe, with our planning guidance team, and also with our board. And through all this stuff, through all this work, we accepted a plan for a way to become in the future. And one of the things we committed to is to be a hybrid community. That's one of the main things we considered. We want to be a community that is not only here in East Scarborough, in West Hill, at West Hill United, but also around the world. People have come and have heard the message of West Hill United and heard that message and wanted to be a part of it. You know, I think we're really offering something unique in this way. Many churches now, post-pandemic, are saying, yes, we need to be a hybrid community. They have members who have got used to being on Zoom, and so people are committed to this. But at West Hill, we've done it there's a couple of unique things about what we've done and who we are. First of all, we got Glenn to set up this whole complicated thing where we actually allow people to stay in Zoom and be part of our conversation on Sunday mornings. Most churches aren't doing that. Yeah, a little clap for Glenn there, who has worked so hard over these past couple years and is looking forward to some much needed time off thanks to these fine young men. And so this summer he'll get to go out to the cottage a couple times and won't have to come in on Sunday mornings to make sure that we can gather. So that's one thing, and I think that really hits the spirit of West Hill United, in that we insist on the connection, we insist on everybody being connected, and that we want everyone to be connected as well as they can. And the other thing is that we, when we talk about churches, and there's other groups who are non-theistic in the manner which we are, like a Unitarian church, or there's other organizations. But most churches are going to give a standard Christian thing that people will find locally where they are. But I think we've already found that people have found us from across the world, is that we're offering something that people really want, that people are looking for. They're looking for a way to be a community, to be reflective about our place in the world, but not be tied to the baggage of a religion in the same manner. So we're going to try and be this hybrid community, and we're going to try and do this so we can connect not only here but across the world. Now, in our conversations with Listenology, there's sort of three areas that kind of popped up. And you've probably seen this slide before. Can you go to the slide there, Rongman? So you've probably seen this slide before, because I just took it from where Joe has showed this to us before. And it has three areas of focus. It talks about a refreshed focus. That's the hybrid community we're speaking of. So we want to be a locally and internationally an interactive community. So over the next couple years, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to do that. How are we going to actually be here on Sunday mornings in a good way, and so that it's a very comfortable place on Sunday mornings, a reflective, meditative space. That might mean getting rid of some wires that are in the middle of the floor, and we'll have to figure out how to do that, but it's not an unsolvable problem. And so we're going to figure out how to do that on Sunday mornings, what that actually means, how we can connect, how we can have a coffee together with people across the world, how all that's going to work. And we're going to have to understand how we're going to serve and be community across this hybridity, if you will. The idea being that we're, that we're going to serve and see who we are, and how do we actually be community, and how do we actually be a force for good in the community according to our values. And then it's talking about a refreshed leadership and innovative team. This hybrid gathering, as we move forward, is going to require some different skills, and we can't count on Glenn to just save our forever. We're going to have to find somebody who can do this so Glenn can retire again several years after he retired the last time. So we're going to have to figure out how to do that and what that team would look like, how that will be. And so we're going to look at all those things as well. And the third thing is refreshed messaging, a precise signal. So again, we're not trying to change who we are or the message we're giving out. But what we're going to do is we're going to say, how do we actually get this message out to people? How do we tell people who West Hill United is? So that will require some understanding of how to refresh our website, or how to do the social media plan, and that sort of thing. So we're going to try these three things that we're looking at. Okay, so now out of these three things, let's go to the next slide. We've divided it up into several different things and several different teams, and we're starting to build these teams right now. So if you look at the left, I guess I did that, it's a little sloppy there, but I apologize. Anyway, the identity, and I guess I'm missing something up at the top. Don't worry about it, Rongbin. Yeah, there you are. Thanks, Rongbin. So the primary gatherings. See, I've got people here backing me up. It's all teamwork and stuff. So we have a priority to them. Not that a priority is more important, but it's just like which one we'll do first. There's an order is which we want to do these things. So the first things we'll look at, and we already have a team that's starting to look at that, which is the primary gatherings. So that'll just help us figure out how we're going to do our Sunday mornings as well as possible, and what will that look like, what's new ways we can be, not just the way we are now, which is a lovely interactive Zoom and in person, but maybe there's other ways in which we can be community. So we're going to keep open to that, and how to make sure that it's done well, and that we have the proper technology and all those things. There's things like and also, and I've said so on Sunday mornings, we're not planning, and this has already been said by the team, we're not planning to change our gatherings so that they go back to what a traditional Christian gathering might be, but we're also going to be open to new ways of new things that we can do in our gatherings that might be just a way to better be ourselves and who we are. A couple ideas is someone pointed out that there was that there's no specific place for to celebrate, to be joyful. We're joyful in our sharing sometimes, but we don't have a specific place to share joy or to be joy. So there might be something we might do with that. We might look at, for instance, having like an ASL interpreter, an American Sign Language interpreter. If we're going to be accessible and open to everybody, for people who can't hear but can read ASL, and there's 1 million people in the world who use ASL, then perhaps we should have an interpreter every Sunday. And maybe that would be not only a way, because it's just a way to welcome people. Somebody who needs ASL can't just come and watch our gathering, or figure out how to do closed captioning and other things. So to figure out how to make our space and our gatherings totally accessible. How do we mix together as people in one space and people in another? Perhaps there's other places where gatherings where a community might share our values, but not be able to hire a minister or something. Maybe they will join us for part of it, and they will have their own community where they are. There's all sorts of ways in which, if we're open to novelty, in which this might go. And we're getting much better at doing the music. I must say, over the months, we're doing really well with getting the music so that it's heard well online, but in here too. But just to make sure that we do that as well as we can. excuse me, which is the most challenging thing there is to do. And again, with the challenging thing is that this technical setup is it's close to a miracle. I don't want to say the word miracle, but it's close to that. And how might we, it really is, and how we might just collaborate with other, how our connection goes with the United Church on Sundays. Maybe there's something we can do there. So the next one is, and we've already started this, the next one is the identity. So you can see identity. And identity will be about, one thing we're not going to do for certain is we're not going to alter VisionWorks now. VisionWorks was finished, I think, a year or two ago. 1 year ago? About a year ago. And there's a commitment to update it every 5 years. So we won't look at VisionWorks as something that we're going to change. We will look at VisionWorks as a guide for who we are. So we're going to wait. We'll change that in 4 years. That's as we already committed. We can worry about that at a later moment. So we're going to try and we don't have a finalized vision statement, so there might be something along there, but that'll have to fit in with our values, et cetera, which is the more challenging and I'd say more important thing even. And so we just want to try and figure out how do we want to put our identity down on paper and on screen in bits and bytes, and we want to get it out to the world, and how do we communicate all this to the world? It's kind of like it's not a rebranding, because we don't want to change, we're not in this to change who we are, we're in this to change how we get our message out. And so that's the second one is identity. That's starting next week. And we've got people both locally and at a distance. And that's just to try and figure out try to define who we are and brand who we are and get that message out. The third one is which will start in the fall, is the staff profiles. And as we do all these things, we're going to need how we're going to staff it so we can actually make this happen. For instance, will we have a technical supervisor who's like a half-time job or something? I don't know. But there's possibilities. How are we going to staff this to make sure that we're doing what we want to do according to our primary gatherings and our identity? So we'll start looking at that one in the fall. And the next one is serving and funding. And that's a couple things. So serving is how are we going to be part of this group in this hybridity that we're looking for? Is it just going to be people in a local place do their local things and people around the world do their world things? Or are we all connected in some? How will that actually work? And a very important thing there too is the funding. How are we going to fund this? So we are going to put effort in to figure out how we can do this so that we're not running deficit budgets every year, so that we're running close to a balanced budget, and that we can know that we're here for the long term, for the long haul. The next one we have is the local and global re-engagement. So this is going to be how we actually connect globally and locally a lot with our justice issues and things like that. Like right now, we have a connection with the Thunder Woman Healing Lodge and the Boys and Girls Club here in our old building. I'll still call it our old building. And so how are we going to do that in the world? So are we going to connect with grassroots organizations that have a global reach? How will that happen? So we'll have a group of people to do that. The next thing we have is partnerships. And so partnerships are very powerful, as we see, we have a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, or like as I said a moment ago, the Thunder Woman Healing Lodge. So how are we going to be in partnerships? What will our new partnerships be? How will they look? And how will that affect our lives? And I just want to say how important partnerships can be. I often hear people in United Churches, not just West Hill United, talk about, a lot of our community is older and we don't have the energy we used to have to do all the things. Well, there's ways in which we can accomplish many of those things through partnerships, right? So that we can be a support to people who are doing things that fit with our values. So we don't have to necessarily run all those things, but we can be a support and a part of them. The next one we have is a living archive. We have to write down all the things that makes West Hill United West Hill United. We already have, he's not there, but we have Scott's hymnal, so that would be part of our living archive. And but also things like our history. VisionWorks is something that we need to get out there. So we really have an archive of who we are and where we've been and how that's going to work. And then at the end, we're going to review our mandates, which will just make sure that we're doing the things that we think we want to do and that we can do well and that we're capable of doing, and things that we aren't able to do or don't want to do anymore, we will let them go. And that's okay. That doesn't mean it's bad or wrong or that time was wasted. But part of becoming is letting go of things as well. So the next thing I want to show is the timeline for all these things. So let's put that up there. Why don't you get rid of me for a second here and so you can see the timeline better. Yeah. Yeah. Agrees with me. There you go. Anne-Marie agrees with me. I'm on the right track. So so you can see June and June there. That's in the top line. That's this year. So the gray part on the left of this year is in gray because that part's gone. We can't do that anymore. It's in the past. It's not set in stone, but it's in the past. And so in June, we've already started our primary gatherings and our identity. So by the end of September, we want our primary gathering group to wrap up its work. Now, that doesn't mean that we'll have finished everything and it will be in our final form, but they'll have given us a direction of where we're going to go. They'll say, we want to go here, this is what we need, and then some of this other work will be taken on by other groups or the board to make sure that it happens. The identity group, as I said, is starting next week, so it's starting in June as well, and that's going to take a little bit longer. It's going to run until the end of November, and we've got a group together for that as well. And then you see the job descriptions will start in September. We'll start looking at that and then probably finish up around March is the goal. And then probably after that is when we might actually hire some people or fill those jobs, is how we'll actually do that. Then in January, you see a couple more starting up, which is that serving, volunteering, funding group and the local global re-engagement group. So once we have a bit of a handle on make sure that our identity is done well and that we know what we want in our primary gatherings, and we've kind of got it, we're starting to get an idea of how we're going to staff this, then we'll do this serving and volunteering and funding and the local global re-engagement. Those will be two separate groups, and we'll get them on these to try and figure out how we're going to do those things, right? And they'll be able to then we'll have a bit of a structure for those folks to see how we can implement those things. And then in March, it says to start up with partnerships, and we'll start defining who we might want as partnerships, look for potential partners, and create a framework for what we want in a partner. And you see in July, it says, well, rest for a little bit, because this is a lot of work. So we're just going to rest for next fall. We'll just rest and take it easy and just be. And then we'll kind of try and wrap it up in 2024 with a living archive so that we have a record of who we are and we can access that and share it with the world, because I believe we have something to share here. And then also we have to review the mandates. That'll help us set ourselves back up and make sure we're doing what we said we would do and that we're joyfully letting go of things that don't serve us anymore or serve the web of life anymore. So that's our plan for that. And then at the end there in June, we're going to celebrate, because then we will be done and hopefully we're going to be moving forward in this. So that's our plan, right? That's our plan. And, if you look at those timelines, I'm not sure we're going to hit all those deadlines, and that's okay. Some of those may be extended, some of those may happen more quickly, and we'll do all these things. So that's where we hope to go. So why don't we take that off and you can go back to me, guys. And I'm going to, after the gathering, I think I'm going to give people an opportunity to just remain and ask some questions online and here if you like. If you want to just go or go for a coffee, you can do that too. But if you want to ask some questions at the end of the gathering, you may. So we are at the threshold of something new, but it doesn't take away who we are. When we become something new, we take what we are, who we are, and what we've been, and we use that to help us become that new thing that we are going to be. And this happens all the time. You can't stay the same. You can't change. Even stone and brick changes over the years. So we're not going to stay the same, but we're going to keep who we are. Because the web of life, if you remember, the web of life extends not only across space, but across time. So we're going to take who West Hill United is, and we're going to grow into who we want to be. Not losing what we've been in the past, though we will let go of some things, but that will still be part of us. Even if we let go of something that we've done in the past, that will still be part of us. But we're going to honor our past so that we can go into the future in a healthy and intentional way. And we want to do this with resolve and joy and intentionality and love. And we're seeking justice and well-being for everyone and everything in the web of life. Because we're not something static. We're not something unchanging. Everything is becoming all the time. And I truly believe that if we open ourselves to novelty that's grounded in life, guided by love, and growing in wisdom, that we will co-create beauty and justice with and in the web of life. Amen.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.